Once the undisputed king of the open road, Harley Davidson now finds itself at a crossroads. How did a brand synonymous with freedom, rebellion, and brotherhood lose its roar? The answer points to one man, Jochen, but the story is far more twisted than a simple leadership change. This is the story of how an outsider, a corporate savior in disguise, took the handlebars of an American icon and drove it straight into an identity crisis. Was he the only choice? Or was he Harley's final desperate gamble to survive in a world that no longer worships V-twins and open highways? In the next few minutes, we're going to uncover the ruthless boardroom decisions, the betrayal of the blue-collar rider, and the shocking strategies that turned Harley from a people's brand into a playground for the wealthy elite. But where did it all start? How did one man gain the power to rewrite over a century of blood, oil, and thunder? Let's find out. Jochen Zeitz, a man who made his name not on the open road, but in polished boardrooms, high above the streets in Europe's corporate towers. He wasn't a rider. He wasn't one of us. He was the architect behind Puma's so-called comeback, taking a struggling sneaker brand and turning it into a global lifestyle empire. And that's the word right there, lifestyle. Not passion, not grit, not soul, but just another product to sell an image. So when Zeitz rolled into Harley Davidson in 2020, hailed as the white-collar savior, many thought, oh, maybe, just maybe, he's the shot of adrenaline Harley needs. But what they got was colder and more calculated. A strategy that sent shivers down the spines of real riders. Because to Zeitz, Harley wasn't the roaring heart of American motorcycling. It wasn't a last refuge for rebels, outlaws, and freedom chasers. To him, Harley was a logo, a status symbol, a badge for coffee mugs, leather jackets, and overpriced electric bikes designed for Wall Street commuters. Now come to think of this, the man leading Harley had never scraped his knuckles on an old Evo engine or never felt the wind slap his face at 100 miles per hour. Yet he was handed the keys to the world's most legendary motorcycle brand. And what did he do first? He didn't open the throttle, but rather he closed the gates. He shut out the riders, the community, and even the soul that built Harley Davidson from dirt roads and dive bars into an American icon. But here's the thing, taking the throne is easy, but holding on to the kingdom without burning it down, that's where the real story begins. As for Zeitz's first move, it was swift, bold, and for many Harley riders, it was downright brutal. It was called the rewire strategy. A fancy plan full of boardroom jargon and shiny investor slides. They pitched it as Harley's path to becoming leaner, meaner, and laser-focused on its core strengths. But when you peel back the polished language, you see the truth. It was a corporate buzzword massacre that shook the entire Harley community. The cuts came fast and they cut deep. First, the bike's beloved models were slashed from the lineup despite decades of rider loyalty. Then, the dealerships, the heart of the Harley brotherhood, where stories were swapped, bonds were forged, and generations of riders kept the spirit alive. And finally, the workforce, the grease-stained hands who kept Harley's wheels turning through good years and bad, laid off, discarded, as if they were just another line item to erase. And for the Street Series, gone. This was Harley's entry-level lineup, the bikes that brought in young new riders from all walks of life overnight. It was erased like it never existed. And those affordable entry-level bikes that gave blue-collar dreamers their first Harley was chopped, scrapped, as if the working man's dollar didn't matter anymore. You're probably wondering why, right? You can pop up someone wondering or confused. Why would someone trusted with Harley's future destroy the very bridges that connected it to the streets? Well, it's because to Jochen Zeitz, Harley wasn't meant to be for everyone anymore. He wanted it to be an exclusive club, a high-priced lifestyle brand, a luxury badge for the elite, and for those who could afford to play outlaw on weekends. He was turning the roar of the open road into a boutique showroom fantasy. If that hits you like it hits us, don't just watch this ride by, hit the like button and subscribe to join the movement. Because this story's far from over, and the real riders, we've still got a lot more to say. But before we continue, let me ask you this, my fellow riders. When did Harley stop being a motorcycle for the everyday person? When did the company that built bikes for rebels, misfits, and blue-collar dreamers suddenly decide it only wanted to sell to rich guys with trust funds and suits? Because that shift right there, turning Harley into a toy for the rich, is the biggest betrayal of all. But here's the real crime. The wound that cut deepest wasn't the bikes themselves, it wasn't the models dropped from the lineup or the factories downsized. It was something far more sacred, far more personal. It was the culture, the very soul of Harley Davidson that came under attack. You see, Harley has never been just about motorcycles, it was never just metal and rubber and chrome, but about rebellion, about middle fingers proudly raised to the establishment. It was about grease-stained hands working late into the night, wrenching on old engines, not because it was easy, but because it was earned. It was about brotherhood, about the unspoken bond between riders who understood that freedom doesn't come gift-wrapped from a showroom. It's something you build mile by mile, scar by scar. But Zeitz? He didn't see Harley as a family of riders. He saw it as just another premium brand, a shiny product to sell with buzzwords and boardroom slides. His big idea was to make Harley all about eco-friendly mobility, partnership, sustainability, and corporate talk that means nothing when you're doing 80 miles per hour down an open highway. Then came his new obsession, electric everything. The future of Harley, in his eyes, was a quiet, expensive electric bike called LiveWire. Now, don't get me wrong, electric bikes are cool, the tech is amazing, and the progress is fine. But here's the problem. Harley wasn't built on silent hums, but was built on roaring engines, grit, and the raw thunder of Milwaukee steel. And for Zeitz, he wasn't adding to Harley's legacy, but was rather trying to erase it. Because here's the cold truth. Harley's legacy was never built on silence. It was built on noise, on attitude, on unapologetic presence. When Zeitz pushed this sanitized, greenwashed version of Harley to the forefront, he alienated the very people who kept the brand alive when the world had already moved on to safer, quieter, more convenient machines. And here's the question you should be asking yourself right now. How do you expect to sell rebellion to people who've been living it their whole lives when all you offer is a hollow, corporate-approved version of freedom? That's not evolution, but a total betrayal. Now, some might try to defend him and they'll say, come on, it's just business. He's making Harley profitable again. Isn't that the point? And yes, if you only care about stock prices and short-term profits, it might look like he's doing a good job. On paper, sure, it's working for now. But ask yourself this, since when did Harley Davidson exist to impress Wall Street? Since when was it about making shareholders happy instead of building bikes for real riders? Because if you look past the headlines and corporate spin, you'll see the truth. This isn't about saving Harley, but about squeezing as much money as possible from the brand, as fast as possible. It's the same old playbook. Cut models that don't sell fast enough. Raise prices to make Harley look premium. Forget about the working-class riders who built the brand in the first place. They're not planning for the next 50 years, but rather polishing up Harley to look good in investor reports, even if it means killing what made the brand special. We've seen this happen before with other companies. A CEO rides in as the savior, slashes costs, boosts profits, then cashes out. And the fans? They're left behind, wondering what happened to the brand they loved. So the real question is this. Is Zeitz actually rebuilding Harley's future, or is he just fixing it up to sell it off? Because when making money becomes more important than making motorcycles, the people who really care, I mean the riders, are always the ones who get burned. But here's the thing, the real Harley riders aren't staying quiet. Not this time. All across forums, riding clubs, YouTube channels, podcasts, and out on the back roads, the people who truly live the Harley life are sounding the alarm, louder than any fancy marketing campaign can drown out. Go to a rally, you'll feel it. Step into a Harley dealership. What used to be a gritty biker hangout, a place to swap stories, talk bikes, grab coffee, now feels more like a luxury boutique. Polished floors with fancy displays, selling a premium version of rebellion, all for a premium price. Meanwhile, getting your hands on parts harder than ever. Not because the bikes are gone, but because Harley's focus has shifted. They're no longer supporting the hands-on DIY spirit that built this community. For decades, turning a wrench on your bike was a badge of honor, but now the message is clear. If you can't afford the shiny, new, overpriced models, you're not part of the club. And that feeling of community, the brotherhood built on long rides, late nights, and shared struggles, it's fading so fast. Not because riders gave up, but because the brand left them behind. Harley Davidson never just sold motorcycles, it sold belongings. It gave a home to misfits, outlaws, veterans, dreamers, people who found freedom on two wheels. But when you trade belonging for exclusivity, when you swap open arms for VIP lounges and velvet ropes, you don't just lose customers, you lose your heart. So the big question is, how long before the very people who kept Harley alive say, enough is enough? How long before they ride off into the sunset, leaving the brand behind in its hollow corporate image? Because no amount of corporate spin can ever replace the roar of a real community that knows when it's being left behind. So is this it? Is this the end of the road for Harley Davidson? Is this where the roar fades into a whisper, where an American icon quietly disappears into history? Well, maybe, because some people would say this is the slow death of a legend with a bang, but with a corporate shrug. But maybe not, because here's the truth. You can strip the paint. You can silence the flashy ads. You can drown the brand in corporate strategies and empty slogans. But guess what? You can't kill the spirit that built Harley. Why? Because Harley was never just a logo, but was always about the people, the riders who lived and breathed the road. Harley's fate has never been in the hands of CEOs, but rather in the hands of the real ones. The DIY mechanics keeping old bikes alive in their garages. The old-school clubs who ride for the love of the journey, not for Instagram likes. The backroad wanderers who never needed anyone's permission to define what Harley means. Because if Harley Davidson wants to survive, if it wants to roar again, it has to remember where it came from. It has to look beyond the polished floors of the boardroom and find its soul back where it was born, on the road, where every mile tells a story, every scar has meaning, and every rider is family. So here's the question you should be asking yourself. Is this the end of the road, or just another chapter in a story that refuses to die? Because as long as there are riders who believe the ride never truly ends, now the fight ain't over. Jochen Zeitz might be the CEO, he might sit high up in his corporate tower making decisions with spreadsheets and shareholder calls, but out here where the rubber meets the road, he doesn't own a damn thing. Because the road belongs to us, the riders, the builders, the rebels, the ones who kept Harley alive long before it became just another line on a corporate report. Now it's up to us to keep that spirit alive, to remind the world that Harley Davidson isn't just a product but a legacy, built by the hands of everyday people and forged in sweat, steel, and the open sky. No boardroom strategy, no luxury rebrand, no stockholder agenda can silence that roar. So the next time you hear that loud Harley engine roar past you, don't think of it as just a brand name. Don't think of it as just some advertisement trying to sell you something, but see it for what it truly is, a battle cry. A loud reminder that the real Harley spirit is still alive, that the riders, the rebels, the outlaws, they're still out there, keeping the legacy alive. A rolling declaration that the fight ain't over, not by a long shot, because as long as there are riders who refuse to conform, who choose the open road over the safe route, the road itself will never end. If you felt this message, if you believe in keeping the true Harley spirit alive, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's make sure this conversation keeps rolling just like our bikes do, because they can own the name, they can own the factories, but they'll never own the soul. Stay loud, stay proud, and as always, keep the rubber side down, my friends.